Apostle again. This man just let me try stuff. Anything my little heart, would do, I bring to him, and he like, okay, Sarge.
Oh, wow.
And so they actually wanted me to run Valley Kingdom Christian Academy. I don't know if you know
what?
that.
I do not.
I was called into a meeting.
That would have been so dope. Oh, my God. I would have loved that.
Academy was transitioning, and they needed a leader.
Wow.
And so they said, we think you should do it. And Apostle said, are you not qualified, or are you not capable?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Hello there, beautiful, and welcome back to another episode of Becoming Serene. So today, I am so excited to introduce to you all, not just a mover and a shaker and a go-getter, but she's also my friend. But let me go on and get to her bio. Some people build businesses and other people build legacies, and few actually can do both while leading with faith, creativity, and purpose. She's an entrepreneur, an A&R director of 4 independent label imprints, and the manager to numerous musical artists. A leader in performing arts education, a former children's pastor, and the arts and entertainment general at Valley Kingdom Ministries International. She was the executive director of Kingdom Performing Arts Academy Project, KPA2. Shout out to KPA2. My children went there, where she has spent over a decade shaping the next generation of artists with a foundation in faith. She is now the creative director of Chicago Creed, using her industry expertise to elevate emerging talent. Beyond her professional endeavors, she's a devoted wife to Chef Robert Lee and a mother to 3 thriving young adults. She understands the art of harmony, nurturing both business and family, faith and discipline, creativity and structure. And now, she's stepping into yet another exciting chapter with the launch of their new restaurant, Legacy Eats Express. Woo! So delicious. Oh my God, if you have not been there, baby, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Whether she's managing artists, curating performances, or launching new ventures, she moves with intention and impact. And today, we get to hear about the lessons, the vision, and the wisdom that she's gathered along the way. So, welcome to my conversation with my beautiful friend, Sheree. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey. I was trying to figure out who you was talking about, but okay. Okay.
Did I say all the way from Detroit by way of, right?
Detroit. I just,
shout out. We gonna always.
I'm always going to be a Detroiter, but it's okay.
And I'm a Chicagoan through and through. I'm the same way. I feel the same way about Chicago. I may not have a Bears or a Bulls shirt in my closet, but your girl. But see, you made that. I'm going to have somebody make me.
And my mama made it for me.
Go, mama. My mama not making shirts. Never. No.
But that'll be a whole nother conversation, how I got my mama into entrepreneurship. But okay,
oh my God. We're going to have mama on the couch one day. I love it. So welcome, friend, to our episode of Becoming Serene. And it's when I think about women entrepreneurs and women that, my God, look like this is the easiest thing in the world to do, I think about you.
I think about me?
I do. You are at
Jesus.
the top of this list because, ma'am, for as long as I've known you, do you know how long that's been? Mackenzie is 21. Does that give you any indication?
It's been a long
since
time.
You and your husband dedicated both of my children to the Lord. Isn't that not crazy?
And they're grown and thriving, and I love it.
Oh my God, just like your babies. Oh my God, my Josh and Bree and my Sheree. What is up? Okay. Let's go ahead.
Let's get into it.
Baby,
okay.
Let's act like this is a show. instead
know,
of us,
right?
because we will do the catch up. But I'm gonna go ahead and take it all the way back.
Okay.
When did you even know that you had an entrepreneur spirit? Like, were you always, because as long as I've known you, it's like, this is what I do. I create positions for myself and move on into it. Hey, tell me your story. Talk, friend. Go ahead.
You know what? I don't think I ever thought about it. My journey was interesting. I went to college at Kentucky State University where I met my husband. I think that was my purpose for going there because I
Wow.
didn't finish school. um, and honestly, I didn't have a plan for my life at all. I wasn't one of those who had everything planned out. I just knew I loved the arts. So I went to school for vocal music education and I love kids. That's what I
Wow.
went to school for. Told you I didn't finish. I ended up getting pregnant and then getting married and all that great stuff. So we was just trying to eat, to be honest.
Wow.
So again, there was no purpose. Um, when I was young, I started working at the church in Detroit. I worked for my church, which was Perfecting Church with Pastor Marvin Winans.
Yes, I was about to say shout out to Pastor Marvin Winans.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so, and then my husband, who is from Chicago, just up and literally came home from work one day and was like, "I'm moving." Like I picked him up for work, and the boxes were in the back of the car. No lie.
What?
And I was like,
I did not know this.
yeah. And so he was like, "Hey, I'm going to Chicago. You coming with?" And I'm like, "No, I ain't going. Like,
Oh.
what you talking about?" So I
This
was
turned
just
into a marriage.
listen. So I was just like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." Eventually, a couple months later, I did come, and I was able to transfer to the company that I was working at before I started working at the church. And so I worked there, but it was way at Addison, and we were living in Blue Island.
Wow. Went to
Yeah.
Chicago.
So I followed my husband, and we ended up joining this, little church. It wasn't little. Valley. No, it was New Christian Valley at
Right.
the time. Later to become Valley Kingdom Ministries. And my daughter was going to the school.
Wow.
Yeah, she was going to the school, and I was like, listen, I can't keep driving out to Addison. I'm gonna ask, are they hiring out the blue? And so they were. Um, and my husband actually talked to Apostle and was like, yeah, you need my wife.
I bet.
I think he just tired of driving out there
I'm
too.
sure he was.
And so my first job there was a ministry support person, ministry assistant. So I used to like make the copies and the agendas and stuff for the meetings. But I always, was an observant person and a troubleshooter. So I saw an issue that the Valley, I felt like we didn't have anybody to support the events. So we would have all these events and little things would get dropped. And I'm like, that's because we don't have somebody specifically assigned to take care of the events.
Come on,
So I
leader.
wrote this proposal to Apostle to
This
become
before
the.
Chat GPT, you were
Listen,
right.
writing proposals, right. Wrote a whole proposal, why we needed a special events coordinator. And I asked to meet with him, and so I proposed it, and so he gave me the position.
And how long had you been there before you started?
Maybe 2 years.
I know we women of a certain age, and I'm making you reach
right,
back to remember,
right.
but still,
Yeah,
that's
maybe
awesome.
2 years.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and so then I did that. So he created this position for me. And so I did that position for about a year and a half, and I noticed another need. And that need was that we didn't have anybody specifically for our children. Pastor Barnett was an amazing youth pastor, but our church was growing so much during those times that we had all these kids. And so he was trying to do both. And so I wrote another proposal.
Of course you did.
And Apostle gave me the position of children's pastor, which I did for 13 years.
Wow.
And so I thought, that's my calling. I'm put on the earth to serve children. And in the midst of that, I started a performing arts program for children. Apostle, again, this man just he let me try stuff. Anything my little heart, would do. I bring to him, and he like, okay, Sarge.
Oh, wow.
And so I started Kingdom Performing Arts Academy. They actually wanted me to run Valley Kingdom Christian Academy. I don't know if you know
What?
that.
I do not.
I was
I did
called
not
into
know
a
that.
meeting.
That would have been so dope. Oh my God.
Listen,
I would have loved that.
oh my goodness, I was called into a meeting, and him and Nate,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, Patrick, what did you do?
Right.
That we're being called into
Right.
a meeting.
Right.
And so, they said that the academy was transitioning and they needed a leader. And so
Wow.
they said, we think you should do it. And I'm like, I'm not qualified to do
Oh
that.
my God.
I can't do that.
Girl.
And Apostle said, are you not qualified or are you not capable?
Oh, oh, oh.
And so I went home and I prayed about
My
it, and
God.
I'm crying and I'm travailing,
Right.
and I'm just like, Lord, I don't have any credentials.
Right.
No, that's what he asked me. He said, are you not credentialed or are you not, capable?
Capable. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so I was like, well, I don't have the credentials. He's like, we can get the credentials.
Uh-huh.
And so we started rolling to recreating the academy. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be over it, it need to be like
Performing arts
what
based.
yeah.
Yes. In
And
addition
so
to academic.
and so
Oh
we
yeah.
were starting that, but that was in 1998, and you remember what happened at that
Yes.
time. So that's when the economy took a dive. People were taking their children out of private school, just
Right.
trying to
Right.
maintain. And so instead of doing a full school, we did
Yes.
a performing arts program
Wow.
that we could get grants for and
Exactly. Most
funding.
definitely.
And so I learned how to write grants. I learned how to, find
Girl,
funding
come on.
and programs. And so while I was running the performing arts program, and I would need these different services like face painting and
Yes. Talk
different
about
things.
it. Talk about
Listen, I was like, oh, that costs too much. I
Yes.
could do that myself. And so every business I started was because I was like, I can do that myself.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
we paying how much for what?
Right.
I can do that myself.
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
literally, that's how I do. I just started all these businesses. So
And they are still existing. That's
so
what I
crazy.
love.
That's how I started. So KPA2 started that way, and eventually it went from just being under the church to they were like, "Oh, it's not supposed to be under the church. It needs to be separate." So I went and we
Did
got a
what you had to do.
separate,
Yes.
EIN and all that old great stuff. And so that's how KPA2 started. And like I said, face painting, and then my husband and I started Life Live Productions, which is a theater production company because we were
Yes.
doing plays and
Yes.
still doing plays.
Most definitely.
And so now I do a lot of behind the scenes production. People are calling me to be their production manager, their stage manager. So that's a lane that kind of created itself in my life right now that I'm doing. So that, and in the midst of that, my husband always wanted to have his own restaurant. So we started this restaurant, and then maybe a year and a half into the restaurant, we had the restaurant flooded.
Wow.
And so, because it was connected to a car wash.
Oh.
So when the car wash would flood, the restaurant would flood. You gotta have to shut it down. And so we did that about 3 times. It was like, okay. At the same time that happened, we lost our home in a fire. And so it was like, okay, and we had started a church.
Oh,
so we had
no,
this church,
yes.
the business, and so
Lord.
everything was just, and so we just stopped everything. We stopped the restaurant. We had to find somewhere else to live. We were living like in a temporary homes, and it was, and so that was a really tough time. It was also a time of me trying to figure out what I should be doing.
Yes,
and
begin again.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Wow.
And so from there, I had been a children's pastor for a long time. Have watched all these children grow up, your children.
Yeah.
The children just grow up. So at that time, the church was transitioning to the 7 mountains of power and influence. And arts and entertainment was one of them, which, by this time I'm realizing in my life that's my passion.
Right.
I'm like, I love the arts. I'm a creative. And so when they were looking for people to fill those positions, I was one of the people.
Wow.
And even now, that's so mind blowing to me because again, I wasn't really qualified. I hadn't really
Come
worked in
on.
the entertainment field outside of
He
church.
doesn't qualify the called. He calls the well. No,
He
he doesn't
doesn't
call the qualify. He qualifies
qualifies
the
the
call.
call. Yes.
I got
And
it.
so, I just started just I'm a big researcher. If I do something, I want to do it well.
That you do,
I
child.
just, I don't like not being able to do stuff
Honey.
like at a high quality.
Right.
And then I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing. So I actually, would research, all about the arts and entertainment, whatever I was doing.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. And so we were about to record like one of the Shekinah Glory projects. And I was in Shekinah Glory at the time, but I was kind of over the music, and arts. And so they did not like the recording, like the singers. Wow. They just weren't gelling with what was going on. And so I was like, yo, I went to the, president of the label, went to Apostle. I was like, yo, they don't like this, And so from that, I became the liaison between the record label.
What?
And, the record label and
Look
Shekinah.
At that grace.
And so I would sit in meetings, and at the time, the A&R was Bernie McLean. And so Bernie was like, yo, you got it. You got an ear. He was like, your ear is great for music. Now I know I love music, always did. Love, really all genres of music. But he was like, you got an ear. You hear music different. And so he started just inadvertently training me and showing me. And then when it was time for him to go on to his next, he recommended me for the position.
That's fire. Wow.
That's how I became the A&R for the label. And now I'm like, okay, I don't know enough to do that.
Like, here we go again, Lord.
Right. And so I was researching and talking to, A&Rs that I would meet in the industry. And so that's really how I got into the music industry. And so, I've been in the music industry about, I don't know, like maybe 15 years now.
What?
And so, in doing the A&R, and we were getting these new artists and signing them, they didn't know nothing. And so, they weren't making good decisions. And so I'm like, they need managers, but I don't need the little weird managers, And so, the people that's doing too much. So that is how I got into managing artists. And so, because I was like giving free information. Like, you should do this, you do. And I was like, hold on.
Right. Hold on. Wait a minute. Right.
Yeah, and that's how I started managing artists. And so now I'm at a season in my life where people are asking me to manage them. So many people. And so I'm like, I don't know if I got the bandwidth. Hold on.
Amazing.
So I'm kind of praying about what that is looking like in this next season of my life. So in the midst of all of that, my husband always wanted a restaurant.
Right.
So, we started the restaurant, we lost the restaurant, and for our 25th wedding anniversary, he took me to this place, and he was like, he want to buy it. I'm like, could you just buy a restaurant? And it ended up being Culture. And so we opened in 2019, December 2019, and the pandemic happened. And we were closing March of 2020.
Yes.
And so we kind of bumbled through that for like 4 years.
The pivot was real.
Tough. We were we literally were paying payroll out of our pocket.
Resuscitation after resuscitation.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
And we just couldn't do it anymore. And so by the time the world opened up, we were tapped.
Yes.
Tapped. Wow. And, we were trying to, keep going, but it just, some other things had happened, and we were just like, we got to close. Wow. And so that was the first time, with all the other stuff I told you I went through, first time in my life I felt like depression.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm like, friend. Life happens. So, when stuff happens, come on, you do something. Yeah. But this was the first time that it just knocked the wind out of me.
Well, that was a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears, like, from us coming.
Because your baby worked for me.
Besides my baby working, baby, your girl was there eating all the time.
All you were.
I don't care nothing about when kids, working. I cared about my eating. not being far and everything. I had events there,
and it
all
was
that.
such a dope place.
It
Like I can't. I
was.
did
I
toot
love
toot.
to yes, I love to recommend it to everybody. The live, if I wasn't there, I was hurt that I missed something. If you had an event, the people that came through, come through, like all the artists that came
Listen,
through, there
and it
was
was.
blowing up.
That's when I
Always blowing up
realized
the spot.
that, man, I really,
Do have
in this
something. Yeah,
industry,
you're really in it. They
because
asking to
I was
stop
making
by.
phone calls.
Yeah.
It really let me create this community of friends. I
Yes.
just gained this whole new community of friends. And when I say to this day, like I can call like so many bands, so
Wow.
many artists, because we formed this special bond, which helps me be very successful over on
Right.
the music side, because I can call musicians for sessions and you know shows and things like that, and they show up for me.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm doing now, and just through it,
So
again.
after culture, after that closed, where
Listen,
were you? How did you
I
feel?
I was depressed.
Wow.
Like for real, like fighting depression, was in
Mm.
therapy. Me and Robert were going
Of
through.
course.
We were going through, like really, really, really going through. And so, we're in counseling. I'm in personal counseling, just everything. And I'm just like, oh my Lord, because what am I gonna do now?
Right.
So I'm working at the label, and we're having our challenges with the label, and I'm just like, okay, Lord. Um, and so in the meantime, we have a catering business, and we have a food service management business that we have, that I didn't talk about, that we have. Um, and so in the midst of that, we get this amazing contract to provide food for a homeless shelter.
Fabulous.
And so from there, it's like, now that the restaurant is closed, it's like we need a place to cook this stuff, And we started, we were in our home for a minute. And I was like, yeah, we can't keep doing this.
No,
This is
right.
crazy. And so we went looking for a kitchen, just a little commissary kitchen to cook in, and ended up opening a new restaurant.
Period.
And so we
Yes.
just opened, a couple of months ago. We're doing well with our contract, and we're really doing a great
Wow.
job as a family. So our family got together and we started a family business, and we were kicking around names, trying to figure out what the names were going to be. And our last name is Lee.
Yes.
And so, we talked about what is our business gonna be about.
Right.
And so we came up with Legacy.
Period.
Instead of Legacy, Legacy.
Yes.
And so what it is we took all of our passions.
Yes.
My daughter is into fashion,
Yes,
and she's a
ma'am.
creative. So she has lovely styles.
Yes.
And then my son, although he's a teacher,
Yes, he is.
and he look, this the one person in our family that got all the stuff they supposed to have.
Right.
He went got his man. You're right. He agreed on up.
Go.
But it's so funny because he's a comedian too.
Right.
And so the name of his business is Where's Rob, though? Because I always joke he gets paid to party.
Wow.
So they literally pay him to host parties and things like that. My other daughter went to school, and she is she's in the nursing field.
Yes.
But she's also a doula.
Yes, I love that.
We need that in the Black community.
Yes,
we need
ma'am.
doulas. And so, again, I told you about the Life Live Productions, and we do face painting and, cooking with Chef Rob and all of that. And so we took all of that and we put it under Legacy.
Wow.
And so that's why we have, now we're serial entrepreneurs.
Pretty much.
Every
That's
time
all your children
some
know.
come up and I got to pay for it, and it don't seem like should be paying that, and I can do it.
Right.
We create
Except
another business.
Interior designing, but that's another conversation.
That's not my price. Yeah, I don't really do that. But I'll make a T-shirt or something,
Right,
But I can't design your house and be looking crazy. So we have our family business, and we were talking. I struggle with not having the credentials.
Right.
Big deal. So I tried to go back to school,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like, now here I am. I'm
Child.
real grown, big
Yes.
old age,
Yes.
and so I want to say I at about 40 or so, I was like, okay, my kids are grown. I'm gonna go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my financial planner, was like, so now,
What you telling me
do
is,
you want to spend
mm,
$100,000
oh my
to
God.
go to school, or do you want to take that $100,000 and put it into your businesses?
Period.
When I
That's
tell
a
you,
no-brainer.
light bulb went off,
Yes.
he was like, you, and it'll delay you,
Right.
4, 5 years, or however long
Yes.
it's gonna take you to
Yes.
do this. To do what?
I was about to
He
say.
said, because once you have that paper, what
Mm-hmm.
difference is it gonna make in what you're doing?
Right.
And so I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to get nobody that type of money. And so that's what
Mm-hmm.
we did. We put it in our businesses.
Yes.
And, people can't believe right now I'm not credentialed the way they think. And,
Whatever.
but one thing I will say is I have favor.
I promise you, if I've never ever known anybody with favor, baby, I already know.
Yeah.
From the moment we met, though, I promise. I don't even know exactly when and where I was at church. I saw you with the children. It's way before I even had children, and it's crazy
Yeah.
because I watch people, and I know that they're going to be in my life. As we say, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I knew you all were lifers, and this is before I had children.
I was about to say, because I remember you pregnant.
Oh,
that's so
yes.
crazy. I remember you pregnant.
And even though you are the children's pastor, and we had developed a relationship because, again, I was a teacher at Valley Kingdom Christian Academy, so we spent a lot of time together there. But when I had children, or I should say we, because my mother synapsed, they are not just yours. But when we had children, I already knew when it came to dedicating them to the Lord, I wanted to make sure it was done through and with people who had a relationship with God. Yes, you are the children's pastor, and it's probably the what you all do, and it's part of the course. But nope, I said I know them for real.
Yeah.
Like I know them true and through and all that good stuff. But that was a blessing to me. And then when Jacob came along, it's like, well, baby, the same people. I don't care what their roles are now and whatever. Most definitely, honey. We have pictures to prove that. Y'all name her on certificates.
That's so crazy, though.
Girl.
But you know what? Just even that, though, because to see your kids now, and like I said, at one point Mackenzie was working for me, and we was like, man, that is Ruth's baby right there. But just I've watched these children grow up, and you know, to know that I just had a little bit of hand in these
Most
children's
definitely.
lives, or it's just incredible to me.
Yes.
And I'm still young and
Aren't
still
we? Vibrant and
thriving
period.
and figuring this thing out.
Yes,
And
we
even
are.
now,
Yes, we are.
I realized, because again, like I spoke earlier, I was like, oh, being working with children that's my purpose. That's
Right.
like, listen, I don't have the grace for it no more.
Honey, I can't
I'm
even
over there
imagine.
with Sheree, my daughter, who is currently the children's
I
pastor.
mean, just moved on up it. And it's so funny.
crazy.
Have you all ever thought about doing like a side by side picture of you as a children's pastor and then her picture as
You know what? We've never
That's
done
crazy.
that.
That'd be
It's
hot.
so crazy.
Yes, like even a morph. Like at
Yeah,
this
I
point,
know,
like
right? Isn't that
yeah. Yeah.
Listen, and she is. I was dope at it. I ain't gonna lie. But
Yes,
she
you were.
is me on steroids.
She is.
She's so
is.
good. But it's
Oh,
like
yes.
that's what we're supposed to do.
I
We're
was about to say the
leaving
same thing.
a lasting
Mhm.
legacy.
But
That
they'll
is
know them by their fruit. Baby, you can't get the fruit even closer. You gave birth to it. A lot of times, because I get so excited when my students say, I want to be a teacher. I'm like, even if it's not because of me, I'm doing something right. You're not saying you don't want to be a teacher.
But what's crazy is, you know, we never talked about her like being in ministry or
I always
anything.
wondered that.
No, she just so at KPA too, it was a family affair. Her
yes.
and both my son worked there. And she was outstanding at it. And so when there was a need for it at
Here we
the
go
Valley,
again.
I was like,
Here we go
she
again.
didn't even know. I'm talking to Apostle, and he had called me in a meeting, and he was telling me that Pastor Sabrina was transitioning, and I felt like in this meeting he was going to ask me, could I step in until they found
Right.
somebody?
Right.
And I was like, yeah.
You're already ready.
I'm like, I don't know if he about to say that, but if he is. And so I said, you know who could do it? And he was like, who? And I'm like, Sheree.
Wow.
He was like, man, that was on a Thursday.
What?
On Sunday, he told her, I need to talk to you on Monday. They offered her the position.
Wow.
He was like, that's perfect. She grew up here. I know
That's right.
we've trained her.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, and I know you'll be there to help.
That's
her.
right.
And
Honey.
so listen, she's so, her creativity goes so far beyond what I did. And so, you know, the church is a lot different now.
Right, right.
And I don't mean the valley. I mean
right.
the
Church as a whole.
institution of church
That's true.
is a lot different. And so the pull that she has to do to get, you know, people to come to church and be consistent is totally different. Because now we went through a whole pandemic that showed us you don't got to come to church.
Right.
And Jesus still love you.
That.
Because when we couldn't come to church,
right.
you know, so I'm watching her navigate a different set of challenges.
Yes.
You know, because now I have 500 kids in church.
Ooh.
You know, for them to have, you know, for her to have, you know, 50, 100 is a big deal now.
And you didn't have as much, like we had social media and everything, but now
nah, it wasn't like that.
No, not at all.
We wasn't using it at church.
Just,
you know, now they did.
That's true.
Yeah, we weren't using. Nah,
that is so.
You know,
true.
And so now everything is technology.
Yes.
We was, you know, dabbling into technology back then. You know, we thought we were doing something with a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
So, you know, back then, but now it's on a whole nother level. And just, you know, when I was a children's pastor, the attention span of a child was a minute a year.
Oh,
it is like
the opposite of that.
Now.
Yes,
it's seconds.
Yeah,
now.
I can't imagine. I would never.
So
I would have to pastor 2 kids.
Listen,
that's it. My limit is 2.
And so now, just watching her navigate that, you know, is still, you know, and then I'm still in the background for her to be able to bounce things off.
Counselor.
And, you know, but she don't even need me now. Like, for real. I'm asking her now, how you do this? You know, because the grace is lifted. But again, you know, I brought that up to say, I thought that children, I was going to do that forever. You know, but the Lord has me in this a different space.
Wow.
And, you know, I realized that throughout each stage and phase of my life, I've always been a creative. And so at my big age now, I've been able to lean into and just, you know, be a creative, you know. And then when I turned 50, I told my husband, I said, listen, we've raised our children. You know, I have retired from the church, had my career. In this season of my life, I'm going to do every single thing I think I want to do.
Praise God.
You know,
wow.
Do I have your support? And he was like, hey.
Wow.
You know, and
Come
so
on, wife.
Now I'm traveling all over because I told you I'm production manager for, you know, different shows and different things. I'm traveling.
We see you.
You know, I wake up when I want to.
Oh my
I work
God.
when I want to.
Talk about it.
You know, because I'm at that point where, for real.
Yes.
I'm doing every single thing that God has placed in me, and then I'm not doing anything I don't want to do.
But you were obedient to the call. Like when you said, I'm going to do this, you did it and you gave it your all. You didn't halfway do it. And one of the things that I literally even started this show to talk about was how we do it to embrace having our faith first. Like literally, baby, the faith that I know you have is like incomparable to anything. But then you counsel your daughter, you asked your husband, not necessarily permission, but you said, are you cool with this?
Like you gonna
right.
It was more like, because now if you're not, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I'm gonna just
but now seriously
get with
though,
it. Give me a amount of time or something, like a time limit.
And I gotta just really take a moment to give him a shout out.
Yes,
because my husband is just a dynamic man.
He is.
He really is. He drives me to drink. and I don't drink.
But he's a
But
fabulous
he
man.
really
He's my
is,
friend.
and like I
He
said,
told me he had to make something that he making. Probably it's probably a secret ingredient that your girls are like. It did bring my little food up a notch.
Did
And
it?
I was like, yeah.
No, but he's amazing. But the biggest thing that I have learned from my husband is his faith.
Wow.
Listen, that man, he said something to me early on in our marriage, and I have held him to it.
Wow.
He said, "If you don't see me worrying, don't you
Oh,
worry."
oh.
Listen,
I remember him saying
listen.
that too. I remember
I'm like
hearing him
looking
say
like
that
you
about
weren't
something.
yet,
What?
cause this
This a
real
worry.
bad. This a part.
Wow.
Yeah, and so and he just like he believes God.
Come.
His faith. Listen, he is the one that like if God gave you a vision, you don't have to worry about the provision. You don't have to worry
Yes,
about the
God.
what, how, who. He like God is going to show you that because he gave you a vision for it.
Wow.
Like, and so he has really taught me that. I'm still not on where his level, but you know, I've learned that from him. I got to be honest. I didn't learn it
Amen.
in church. I learned it from
Amen.
my husband because he
Amen.
has an unwavering faith that
Praise God.
I admire that.
Amen.
And so even now, you know, to watch him just walk in his dream and his purpose. You know, now my husband was a church kid. I was not. And so for him, he loved that church stuff. I love Jesus.
Right.
I don't got to, the church stuff don't, and I go to church
Yes.
every Sunday, all
Right.
that, but the
Yes.
church,
Right.
I don't need the institution of
Right.
church.
Right.
He loves that part, but for him, you know, he always feels like he hasn't attained where he wants to be
Wow.
at, in the church
Right.
realm. But so many people tell him constantly that they've touched their lives. That
Wow.
we recently lost somebody really dear to us, somebody, and we call them prayer men. And one of the ladies that's close to him is like, "You don't understand. Prayer man talked about you all the time." What to my husband, and I tell him all the time, "Listen, sir, you don't have to be up there on the stages.
It does not take titles to
Listen,
make you
and
right,
he got the
effective.
titles. He got
I know
the
he
stuff,
does. Yeah.
but you change people's
Oh
lives.
my God, yes.
You touch people. You touch my life. You touch your kids' lives.
That's right.
You are our hero.
That's right.
Again,
That's right.
me and my husband be like, yeah, we do, but we have like, we really, that's my
Wow.
brother.
Oh,
Even though that's my
love it.
husband,
I
it's like,
understand.
that's my brother.
Yes.
And so he just touches so many lives. So, I just had to take a second and
Yes.
shout out to Robert T. Lee, Robert
Yes.
Timothy Lee. Because he really is. So in our family, we had these little nicknames for each other. My son, Josh, he calls himself the glue. And he really, he is the glue. And, I'm the supporter. Well, my daughter's the supporter. And, Sheree thinks she's the house manager. That's what she calls herself. She thinks she runs everybody, But my husband is the pillar.
Wow.
He is the pillar. Like,
Wow.
he is how we are all standing and staying there, and he handles his role good, and well. Let me use
proper grammar.
English.
Right.
But no, he handles his role well. And so I'm grateful, just for us to have this family dynamic. Our children help us in the business. I am happy to say that we have a family business where my kids don't hate it because they all on payroll.
Amen. Same here. Understand it. Know it very well.
Listen,
Yes,
and so it's not like they just over there begrudgingly doing this. They buy into the vision because they can see the fruits because they get a check.
That's right.
They get a check.
That's right.
And so that for me is like the biggest deal.
Yeah.
Because we're not just asking them to volunteer like they're church members.
Right.
They get a check. And so, and then we're able to employ other people, and I love that. So,
most definitely.
That's my little story.
So, you know what I love so much, honey, is that as the person, hosting this show and everything, I expect to ask questions. But with my dear friend, I don't have to ask any questions. It was just like, girl, tell me your story. So you shared about your resiliency. You shared about your faith. You shared about how you bring all that together in your family and seeing the fruits of your labor and everything that God has promised because He's faithful.
He's so faithful.
My God, He's so faithful to His word and to what He promised. And I know for a fact that you still have not seen everything that He's shown you. I know. We still have so much more to see and expect from you. But what is on the table? Like, where can people follow you, share all the handles and all that good stuff, girl?
So I'm Mrs. Shelee on everything. MRSSHELEE on everything. What's crazy is I just stepped out into unfamiliar territory for me. So
Wow.
it's
What is
crazy.
that?
So now everybody knows I do plays and things like that, but I'm always directing and producing because I like to tell people what to do. But I just stepped into a role as an actor.
What?
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Oh, I did see your headshots and everything. A little
Yeah,
while ago, I did see you saying something new on the scene, and that's what
yeah,
that
and
was
so
for.
it's so uncomfortable
Uh-huh.
because again, I like to tell people what to do,
Right,
you know. But
exactly.
this is like, hey,
Taking
learn your
direction.
lines, learn your, you know,
Placement.
learn your
Yeah.
placement and your
Wow.
angles, and you
Yes.
know. And so I'm the things that I've been telling people. It's like being
What?
on this side. So yeah, and I'm actually will be filming a
I'm
series
so
and a couple of
excited.
movies. Yeah, and it's crazy because he's like, "Yo, you
Wow.
kind of natural at this," and I'm like, "I don't know how natural it is because I've been doing it on the other side, but you know, it's exciting,
Girl.
and I'm trying something, you know, something new because
It could be a little stretch.
I don't remember
Because,
stuff real well, so
right,
remembering
girl, I can't
lines
even
is
imagine.
listen, it's a stretch, but you know, I'm like, yo, I could do this too.
Yes.
So yeah, so you know,
Credit's gonna be rolling for a different reason now.
ain't that crazy?
Oh my
So
God,
yeah,
friend, I love that for
so
you.
that's what I'm doing.
So let's go ahead and let me ask a question, I guess, since had Mackenzie prepare these and all. If there is anything that you would say to your younger self, like literally, what would you say? Like, you know what, little Sheree? What?
So I know this probably sounds a little cliche, but do it afraid.
Wow.
Do it scared. Go ahead and do it. You know, I have a saying now that ask for what you want because you're already at no.
Wow.
You know, so I'm not scared of no. I will ask for whatever because, you know, if
Not
you tell me
asking is no. Yeah,
if you tell
answer's
me no,
already
I
there.
was already there, so I'm
Yeah.
not like my feelings not hurt. I don't feel no kind of way about
That's
you.
powerful.
You know, I do feel like, oh, okay, let me ask a different way.
Oh, baby, not even a different way. Let me ask a different person because if it's
Listen,
more than
right.
one way through a door, that's
Yeah,
me all
but
day.
I'm not sitting over there mad or oh God, they
Right.
might say no. They might say no, but I
Right,
was
and it's
already there.
okay.
But my point is like do it afraid. You
Yes.
know what I'm
Just
saying?
do it.
Don't worry about the no's. Don't worry about the yeses.
That's
Because
right.
a lot of times we're not afraid of the no's. We're afraid of the yeses.
Baby, I already know.
So
Yes.
I think that's what I would tell my younger self. Although you know I wasn't really scary about stuff, but
Right.
you know just do it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
Most
because I
definitely.
do feel like you know I waited till I was this big age to do some of that stuff. You know, now some of the stuff I need to wait so I can mature and all that.
Right.
But you know, just doing it. If God gave it to you, you
Ma'am.
know, He'll give you provision for it. So
Most definitely.
just do it.
One of my favorite lessons that I took from our conversation, honey, is that you said, when I saw a need, I created a proposal to meet it. Honey, that is it. That's true
life.
entrepreneurship.
Like in real life.
All day long. And especially in this day and time, you were doing it before there was a mold. You created a mold.
Yeah,
Friend, that's so powerful. And me as a former parent, I thank you for doing that and setting it up where our children and yours included, and that's always what's so wonderful is when our own children can also be recipients of everything that we pour into other people's children.
Man.
Hey, I know I homeschool mine first. Like that's what.
Right.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Honey, I understand that and all
Yeah,
that.
it's
Well,
nothing like
I
that.
thank you so much for blessing this couch,
Oh,
blessing my show, and blessing all of the people that I already know who are going to watch, listen, play back,
oh
share.
wow.
Please, please subscribe, like, and share. But all of that. And follow her on all of her handles and follow the family's legacy because you have done
Oh
that. If you
wow.
don't do anything else, I am so proud of
Thank you,
you
friend.
and my friend Robert T. Lee
Yes.
and your children. I love all of you. You already know that though.
Yes.
But
I
you
do
all are the
know that.
bomb.com. That's right. Do y'all feel the love? Because this is some sister
Yeah,
love over
like for
here.
real, for real.
For real. We go
Mhm.
back. We're also born in the same year. This is given fabulousness of a certain age. Period.
And
I mean, we
I,
already shared we both
certain
done
age.
turned 50. Right.
Right.
We not afraid of
Yeah,
numbers, but
right. Right.
thank you.
It's
I
the over that
love you.
number now. But let me just say this
Please.
to you. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you for stepping out and doing this. You know, in the little break, I asked you, why did you start this? And so I love your reason for doing it. Keep doing it. It's going to be bigger, better. I'm going to be like the worst guest because everybody after is going to be so much better. That's how
Oh.
dope this is about to be.
Oh
So
my God. Friend, you're
I'm
the
excited for
best.
you.
I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
All right. Until next time, I'll be seeing you. And I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And go around and make somebody else's day great today. Bye.